something was wrong. The night the lock told me a lie. The app on my phone pinged at 11:42 p.m. Guest code accepted. Door opened. 38 seconds later, door closed. Meanwhile, Nina was on FaceTime in a hotel room in Fresno, bun tight, scrubs folded behind her. "I'm logging into the webinar," she said, angling the camera at a white wall as if the Zoom itself could testify. I remember the way my stomach pinched. Holy stupid hope. I believed her for another 10 minutes. By morning, I had a plan I called "Stop Gaslighting Myself." I made coffee, black, bitter on purpose, and watched the timeline again. Door open at 11,042. Door close at 11,043. Another open at 2017 a.m. The guest code wasn't her personal PIN. We had made it a year ago for dog walkers we never hired, then forgot to disable it. I sat at the little table by the window where South 5th Street hummed like a power line and told myself all the sane things. It could be a glitch. A draft caught the latch. The concierge propped the door for maintenance. Until I remembered there was no maintenance request, and I'd set the notification to ping me only when the guest code was used. I didn't call her. I went to work and pretended to be the kind of product manager who still fit inside my skin. Stand up at 9. A Sprint retro where everyone wanted fewer meetings and more honesty. It felt like the universe cleared its throat and looked at me. I took notes I didn't read. At noon, while I pushed a salad around in a plastic bowl, my cousin sent me a photo, not to me directly, but to the group thread we rarely used. "Random, but look," he wrote. "Fresno courthouse has the ugliest lighting." The picture was of him and his girlfriend, and behind them, blurred and still painfully obvious, a couple on the courthouse steps. Cream dress, navy suit. The woman's profile hit me like a shovel, the way she lifted her chin, the hair coiled at the nape. If your brain spends years loving someone, it builds a map out of ordinary details. One look and you're home, or you're homeless. I didn't breathe. "When was this?" I typed in the chat. "Yesterday," he typed back, and added a laughing emoji because he's 23 and the stakes of life are not yet known to him. "We were getting my traffic ticket handled. Saw like 3 couples. Central Valley romance, baby." My hands shook hard enough to make the plastic fork scratch the bowl. There was a man in the background with the woman. His palm rested at her lower back the way you do when your body believes it's allowed. And there was a third person, small, squirming, caught by the corner of the frame. A boy, 2.5, maybe 3. I zoomed in until the pixels broke. Someone had commented under the photo when my cousin posted it to his story later. "Family day with 3 hearts. My cousin didn't know them. Someone else did." At 6:03 p.m., the door to the loft opened again with the guest code. I didn't go home. I parked on 2nd Street long enough to watch my knuckles go white. Then I drove past our building and around the block and around again. San Jose in July has a way of smelling like hot pennies and basil if the food trucks line the right curb. My phone vibrated twice. Door closed. Door opened. Guest code. Guest code. It came through me like a wire pulled too tight. I told myself anything that would keep me from storming up there and turning into a version of me I didn't want to know. Instead, I went to the front desk. "Hey, Evan," Louis said. He's the concierge who has a dad smile and reads crime novels when the lobby is quiet. "You look not great." "Question," I said, voice as even as I could make it. "Does maintenance use the guest code when they're doing anything in 5B? He glanced at his screen. "They shouldn't. They have a master. You okay?" Just trying to figure out why a guest code is being used when my wife is out of town. He clicked again, frowning. "I can't see your lock logs, man. You know the rules. But I can see some lobby footage, people walking through. If a dog walker checks in, I log them." "Has a dog walker checked in?" "Nope." He looked at me like he wished the answer were different. "I have seen your wife a few times in the middle of the day with a little guy. Super cute. He likes the water wall." He nodded toward the indoor fountain by the elevators, the one with the LED strip that makes it look like rain in a video game. My mouth opened and then just stayed that way. Heat pressed behind my eyes the way it does before a fever. "She doesn't have a kid." Luis's face did the thing where a person knows they've stepped into a live wire. Hey, ignore me if I'm out of line. I just saw what I saw." "You're not out of line," I said, and had to grip the counter because my knees were deserting me. "What color backpack?" "Yellow," he said softly, "with dinosaurs." I swallowed until my throat hurt. Yellow with dinosaurs. It's the kind of detail you can't fake. The kind that shows up in dreams later and knocks. I didn't storm upstairs. I went to a supercharger lot and sat in a row of Teslas huffing quiet air and stared at my phone until the sun sank behind the SAP Center and the sky stylized itself into blues a brand designer would kill for. At 9,114 p.m., door opened with Nina's personal pen. The app drew a little green bubble next to her name like it was proud of itself. At 9,016 p.m., FaceTime lit my screen. "Hey," she said, "you dodged my calls." "I didn't," I said. "I just didn't answer." "What does that even mean?" Her voice was all bright edges. The ICU had taught her how to sound calm over panic, and somehow she used that voice on me when we fought, as if my feelings were a code she could run best practice on. The webinar ran long, some case studies on chest tube complications. "I'm fried." "You're in San Jose now?" "Yeah." "Drop my bag. Taking a quick shower. Why are you... What's that tone?" "Which hotel has showers that teleport you home?" She was quiet, a beat too long. "Are you okay?" "No," I said. The honesty scared me. It felt like gusseting a dam with one honest nail. "Our door opened twice last night with a guest code, and again today, and then you came home at 9:16. "Maintenance," she said quickly. "I told them about the sticky hinge." "You know how you have to yank it?" Louise said. "Luis told me," I said, and my voice cracked on the name, "that he's seen you here in the middle of the day with a little boy who likes the water wall." She inhaled so sharp it cut. Then, "Why are you talking to Luis about me? Do you see how controlling that is? Do you see how you sound? This is not normal, Evan." "You know what else isn't normal?" I felt the heat climb my neck. "Seeing you in a courthouse photo in Fresno yesterday with a man's hand on your back, looking like a wedding guest if not a bride, with a boy, and comments like, 'Family Day.'" "That's insane," she said. But her voice shifted from the ICU calm to something that showed its teeth. "You think I got married? Are you listening to yourself? Is this why you've been weird? Because you misread a stranger's profile in a lock app? You need help." "Maybe," I said, and surprised myself by how steady it came out. "But so do you. The guest code is being used. The logs don't lie." "Turn it off then," she snapped, "since you want to hold the keys to my life." There it was. She taught me how to hear the hinge on her lies. When she couldn't steer me off a fact, she turned it into a story about my character. Control, paranoia, a man with too many dashboards. "Okay," I said, "I'll turn it off." The silence that followed had a hope-shaped space inside it. Then she said, small and angry, "Don't you dare." "Why?" "Because I'm tired and I don't want to deal with your tests." "It's not a test," I said. "It's a door." "Evan." "I'm turning it off." I hung up and disabled the guest code and stood very still in the charging lot, as if the night could hear my breathing. 10 minutes later, my phone lit with messages. "Wow, you are unbelievable. I need my own code for my own home. This is abusive. I'm staying with Jen. You can cool off." I slept badly. When I did sleep, I saw the water wall and a small hand reaching. In the morning, I drove back to the building. Louis lifted his eyebrows at me, then at the elevator bank. "You two good?" "We will be," I lied. The day moved like someone had turned up gravity. At 3:20, Nina texted, "Let's talk. Lobby at 6, and he's going to be there. You should know the truth already if you're going to act like this." It was the kind of message that knifes you and calls it moral. I went early to the lobby. The water wall whispered next to the ficus. Luis pretended to read, eyes flicking up. A family got their mailbox keys sorted, laughed, left. The elevator dinged at 6:12, and then they stepped out. Nina in jeans and a gray t-shirt, hair in a loose knot I knew too well, and a man I'd never seen, early 40s, Fresno sun in his skin, wearing a button-down with the sleeves pushed to his elbows, like a man on a casual day at a serious job. And there was a boy between them holding a small yellow backpack with cartoon dinosaurs. "Evan," Nina said. She took a breath that squared her shoulders. "This is Marshall, and this is..." "Hi," the man said, sticking out his hand. "I'm not sure what version you've got, but I'm..." He glanced down at the boy. "We're just here to make sure things are clear. Nina, this feels..." "Please don't grab the narrative," Nina hissed, so quiet I barely heard it. I didn't take his hand. I looked at the boy instead. He had the same dark crescent of a left eyebrow Nina has. The ring finger on her right hand had a pale groove where jewelry had been. "Not our band! Our band sat on my dresser in a ceramic dish shaped like a leaf because she said sleeping in jewelry felt like sleeping in a collar." "I don't want him here for this," I said. "He's fine," she said. "He won't remember." He will, I thought. This, voices, water, the shape of anger, these are the things you don't forget. The boy traced a finger down the water wall and laughed at the way it made his reflection ripple. Okay, I said, tell me the truth. The truth, she said, eyes sliding to Marshall, is that we messed up the order of our lives. I started seeing someone a while back. It was complicated. His divorce took forever. We didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to hurt you. I kept things separate. I have two roles, okay? The one where I'm the nurse who can keep it together, the one where I'm a mom. I was trying to keep you safe from my mess. Say it without the soft words, I said. You have two lives. Marshall stepped forward half an inch, palms open. I didn't know she was still married, he said. Not at first. I found out later. She told me it was handled. This is not how I wanted this. I thought today was going to be... Today, I said, the courthouse, the cream dress, the hand on her back, the word lit up like a siren. What are we doing in a lobby if you already did a courthouse? We filed paperwork, Nina said. We didn't. It's not legal yet. It's complicated. You filed while you were married to me. It's not a real marriage, she snapped. Grow up, Evan. You and I are... Don't finish that sentence, I said. My legs were shaking. My voice wasn't. Don't tell me what we are. Luis stood quietly. He didn't come closer. Just stood, like a person does when he wants to be near if something breaks. Look, Marshall said. He folded his arms like he had to hold himself in. It's obvious you're blindsided, and I hate that. But Nina and I have a kid. The boy tugged on his sleeve and whispered. The man crouched. Yeah, buddy, he said. It's okay. The water is tickly, right? I watched the way he talked to the boy, patient, kind, practiced, and something in me pitched. I had spent 2 years telling myself we weren't ready. We'd talked about kids like an elective that required prerequisites we never met. She'd come home and scrub the soap dispenser clean because someone on a night shift didn't wash hands. Then she'd stand in the dark and cry and say, I can't mother people all day, and then come home to mother you. It was a joke until it wasn't. It was a mapping error. Who was whose? I asked you last spring, I said. I asked you if there was someone, and you looked me in the eye and said no. I was protecting our peace, she said. You always spiral. I didn't want to set you on fire for no reason. Truth doesn't set me on fire, I said. Lies do. Her mouth pressed flat. She reached into her tote and pulled out 2 cards, both addressed to Nina in cursive. The letters were the same name written by 2 different hands, or maybe 2 different selves. One of the cards had a curling, careful signature at the bottom with little hearts dotting the I. The other had a fast, slanted one that looked like it was late for a train. I'm not 2 people, she said. I'm one person who made mistakes. You sign your name like you're auditioning, I said. You tilt it cute for one life and sharp for the other. That's unfair, she said. You want unfair? How about living with someone who checks an app more than my face? You want unfair? I said. My voice came out low enough to scare me. How about finding Fresno on a Tuesday in your life and not in mine? Marshall stood. We can leave, he said to her, and for a second I was grateful for him. It's a weird thing, to be grateful to the man you want to punch and to love his kindness toward a boy who had done nothing wrong. No, she said. We're doing this like adults. Evan, I'll move my things to Jen's tonight. We'll make a schedule to talk in a week. We will be civil, and you will not make a scene. Who are you talking to? I said. Your staff? Don't, she said. Don't be cruel. I'm not, I said. I'm being clear. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a little gray capsule on a keychain, the kind people use to hide a spare key. I'd found it above the door trim that afternoon, taped in place. The kind of capsule you'd use to stash cash. I unscrewed it and tipped $20 bills into my palm. What's this? She flinched the way you flinch when someone surprises you with your own reflection. It's cash. For what? For emergencies. For a life you didn't want to leave a paper trail for? She looked at Marshall. Can we go? One more question, I said, and I could hear the pleading in it and hated that it was there. If you were going to tell me, when? When you were ready, she said. When you weren't on a sprint deadline, and when you weren't about to present to the board, and when you weren't. Busy being a person, I said. Busy being a controller, she shot back. Then softer. You track everything. Steps, calories, light bulbs. You track me. I tracked a door, I said. We stood there and let the lobby be our judge. The boy pressed his cheek to the water wall and giggled at the cold. Louise coughed. Because he's human and there's a limit to how much quiet a body can hold. Okay, I said. This is what's going to happen. You can pick up anything you need tonight with me here. After that, we'll make a plan with a mediator. I'm changing the codes. The guest one is already gone. You can have your code once we agree. Until then, text me when you need access and I'll be here. I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting me. You can't do that, she said. I can, I said. Boundaries aren't cages. They're maps that say where I don't get betrayed. Her eyes shone, sudden and sharp, as if something real had finally been named out loud. You always did love turning a sentence into a tattoo. It's a survival technique, I said. She lifted her chin, the same angle as in the courthouse photo. Fine. Marshall nodded once, tight. For what it's worth, he said. I'm sorry. You're not the one who promised me, I said. He winced and squeezed the boy's hand. Let's go, buddy. They left. She didn't look back. I watched them cross the marble and mean it. I walked to the elevator and felt the metal box cradle me up 5 floors. In the loft, I stood in the entryway and listened to my pulse bounce off drywall. The place looked the same because betrayal isn't a fire, it's a fog. The couch still wore its blanket. Her aloe plant still posed like a hand. On the counter was a receipt from a Fresno gas station with her debit card last 4 highlighted in blue pen. Her habit when she double-checked statements, and on the back she'd written milk and Band-Aids in a tiny, fast hand. Milk, Band-Aids. The grocery list of a life I wasn't in. I turned off the app notifications because I didn't want to be a man who measured his grief in door chimes. Days became their own small country. I worked. I ran the Guadalupe River Trail until the anger turned into a kind of clean burn. I carried the gray key capsule in my pocket and felt the way the aluminum warmed. When my mind tried to make me the villain controlling suspicious, I replayed the lobby and heard my own voice calm and home to itself. Boundaries aren't cages. Can we talk? She texted on Thursday. We will, I wrote, with a mediator. You're impossible. I'm possible without you, I wrote, and then put the phone face down because sometimes you have to stop auditioning for a person's respect. On Saturday, I went downstairs for packages and ran into Lewis walking back from lunch, burrito in hand. You got this, he said low. I know that's a weird thing for a concierge to say, but you do. Thanks, I said. Is that allowed? He shrugged. I'm a person in this building too. That night, I gathered her things into boxes. I didn't do the petty thing where I leave a sock in a drawer so she has to come back. I labeled them with a Sharpie and set them by the door. On top of one, I placed the ceramic leaf dish with my wedding band in it. The pale groove on her right finger had burned into my vision. I didn't want the mirror image of it on me. She came with Jen to pick up the boxes. We didn't fight. She signed a receipt I typed up on my laptop, 2 different ends in her name in 2 different slants, like her muscles couldn't decide which life had jurisdiction over her pen. She took the leaf dish and left the ring. After the door closed, I sat on the floor and cried until I felt emptied and washed. Not clean, just rinsed. The first mediation session was a room with too much air conditioning and a woman who wore linen like a weapon. Nina said the phrase, emotional control, 3 times in the first 7 minutes. I said, logs don't gaslight. The mediator raised both palms. No metaphors, she said. Facts. So I brought out the app summary, the lobby visitor log where Louise had written Nina plus child in neat caps, the Fresno receipts she'd left on the counter, printed bank statements that tugged the thread of overlapping lives. It felt like passing bricks hand to hand to build the wall I should have built to begin with. By the 3rd session, I was done explaining myself. I changed the lease to my name and paid the fee without bargaining because there are places that stop being home even if you never move. I changed the lock completely, the hardware, not the code, and published my own new rules on my own refrigerator with a magnet shaped like the Golden Gate Bridge we bought the day after our first argument ended without slamming doors. The rules were short, sleep 8 hours, no reading the app after 10, tell the truth on the first try. A rule is a bridge for the place that collapses inside you when someone leaves. I took my ring and had a jeweler in Willow Glen melt it into a thin bar, then bend the bar into a small, plain loop I could hang on my keychain next to the gray capsule. I wanted the symbol of us to open something only I controlled. At night, the city put its cheek to the window and hummed. Sometimes I thought about the boy's yellow backpack and felt a bruise of tenderness for a life I had not lived and would not. Sometimes I thought about the man's hand on her back and felt the old heat. When that happened, I stood up, drank a glass of water slowly, and told myself a new sentence. I don't have to compete with a lie. When the divorce papers came, I signed them with a hand that belonged to a person I was starting to like again. The notary asked me if I wanted the date stamped in red ink or black. I said, black. Red is for alarms, black is for facts. Nina texted me on a Sunday in late September. The air had a way of tasting like metal before the first rain. "Do you hate me?" she wrote. "I don't have energy to hate you," I wrote. "I have energy to not be with you." "For what it's worth," she wrote, and I could hear the ICU voice sliding back on like a glove. "I wish I'd told you sooner. I wish I'd done it cleaner." Clean and soon would have been a different life, I wrote. We don't have that one. 2 months later, I sat with Louis at a Lavix, 2 blocks over, and ate an orange sauce burrito like I was making a decision with every bite. He told me about his daughter's piano recital. I told him about a product launch that didn't crash. We toasted with horchata to adulting, which felt like a joke and also not. "Do you ever want to move?" he asked. "I did," I said. "But then I thought, if I leave because of this, the map wins. I want my own rules here first, then I'll see." I walked home at dusk, and South Fifth was a slow river of brake lights. In the lobby, a new family sat on a bench while their realtor gestured at high ceilings. A little girl pointed at the water wall and laughed. It didn't hurt, it pinched, then it released like a muscle finally warm. Upstairs, I stood at the counter and wrote 2 sentences on a notepad and stuck them to the inside of the cabinet where we used to keep mugs. The sentences were for the version of me who might forget, absence of truth is violence against time and mind. Leaving is also an act of care. You can love people and still have to leave them. You can leave them and still love what you learned about yourself because of them. A door is just a boundary you choose every day. I locked mine and slept like a person with a map. 2 questions for you. Where do your boundaries end and someone else's choices begin? And what would it cost you to choose the truth on the first try? If this story hit a nerve, leave a comment and subscribe. More soon.